What kind of pressure will the lobby put on Trump? And before you answer, I'm going to run just one of the lobbyists' loudest and most fervent voices, and one that for a while got to whisper into Trump's ear, but apparently no longer. Chris, number 15.
How in the world could you tie Israel's hands when it comes to self-defense in Lebanon while Hezbollah is firing rockets and drones over the border at Israeli citizens? Shall we say that this is not a popular MOU, from what I understand, in Israel? And again, Israel, they were flying jets alongside American jets during this whole operation. Iran was firing at American soldiers during this whole operation. So playing halvesies is a bit strange.
Of course, was Ben Shapiro. What can the lobby do to Trump now?
Well, they could make life miserable for him by saying the sorts of things that Mr. Shapiro was saying. They can try and tar and feather him. But in fact, most people fully understand that Trump is doing the right thing, that Trump has no choice. It's not like Trump was somebody who was playing hardball with the Israelis in the past and was forced to back off. As we've talked about on this show, there's no president in recent memory who kowtowed more to Israel and to the lobby than President Trump. The question you have to ask yourself is, why did he do this 180-degree turn? He did this 180-degree turn because he is the president of the United States of America. He is responsible for our security. He is responsible for our prosperity. And he fully understands at this point of time that the Iran war did not go as planned, and that the international economy, which will have huge effects on the American economy, is about to go off a cliff. And he has got to shut this war down immediately. And in fact, I'm sure President Trump understands that this would be good for Israel in the end as well, because Israel has no interest in seeing the international economy go off a cliff. If that were to happen, Israel will be blamed for getting us into this war, and it will be blamed for not allowing us to get out of this war, and for the fact that the international economy went off the cliff and we're back to the 1930s. Israel does not want that to happen. Israel should be happy that President Trump is trying to put an end to this war. And as I said before, they should be cooperating with President Trump. Is it an ideal situation from Israel's point of view? Absolutely not. Is it the best of a lot of bad alternatives? The answer is clearly yes.
Here's Prime Minister Netanyahu's principal opponent in the elections in October, and his likely successor, Naftali Bennett.
I want to tell the Iranian regime from here, I'm going to be your worst nightmare ever.
President Trump said in March 2026, there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. We're a long way from that, aren't we, Naftali Bennett?
Well, what you've just described is that Iran is a big, violent bully, and it proves all the more so that we have to ensure that it doesn't acquire a nuclear weapon, ensure that it can't terrorize the world, because we've seen a demonstration of what this bully looks like when it uses conventional weapons. So now imagine what it would look like if it acquires nuclear weapons. So if anything, we've all seen the true Iran. I also want to tell you that I believe that soon in Israel, there'll be a new government. Hopefully, I'll lead that new government. I want to tell the Iranian regime from here, I'm going to be your worst nightmare ever. I won't relent until we free your people, ensure you don't have a nuclear weapon. So you've got no hope. We won't let up on this effort because it's fighting for our freedom, for our security, and for the benefit of the entire Middle East.
How irrational to hear an Israeli leader call another country a violent bully. Israel's very soul is war and expansion of its borders and killing whoever it has to in order to expand those borders.
I think that guy's got the Rip Van Winkle problem. I think he's been sleeping since February 28th. I don't think he understands what's happened since February 28th. He's talking tough with the Iranians. Well, doesn't he understand that his country, Israel, and the United States just went toe-to-toe with Israel, with Iran, and Iran won? What is he talking about? He's going to get tough with Iran? And he's probably going to have to do it all by himself because the Americans are not going to want to do this again. And what's the story he's going to tell as to how Israel is going to prevail next time when it failed this time working with the United States? I just don't understand what he's thinking. Where's he been? Again, I think he has a Rip Van Winkle problem.
Here's Vice President Vance in the press briefing room 2 days ago, the essence of which I suggest to you is Israel needs to wake up. Cut number 9, Chris.
What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. The other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in.
He's made a couple of good points, Professor, don't you?
I agree 100%. I think he's exactly right. And he'll, of course, be portrayed as an enemy of Israel now. And they'll go to great lengths to smear him, and they'll go to great lengths to smear Trump, when in fact, what Vance is saying makes perfect sense and is not anti-Israel. He's basically telling Israel the facts of life, and Israel ought to wake up and smell the coffee. It's time to recognize the mess that both Israel and the United States have created, and to recognize that the only way to get out of it is to cut the deal with Iran that Trump is in the process of trying to cut.
Well, where do you think this goes? Will the lobby do its best to undermine him?
I think they will. And I think Israel will as well, even though it's not in the lobby's interest and it's not in Israel's interest. I think the end result is, as Israel and the lobby push hard against Trump, Trump will push back even harder than he and Vance are pushing back now. Again, I just don't think we have any choice here. And the key, Judge, is that if you listen to the lobby and you listen to the Ben Shapiros and you listen to Israeli people who are opposed to this agreement talk, they never come up with a viable alternative solution. Okay, you don't like the deal. What's the alternative? Go back to bombing? I don't believe that anybody in their right mind thinks that going back to bombing is going to make this situation better. In fact, it's going to accelerate how fast we move toward the precipice. It would be catastrophic to start the bombing campaign again. We just have no alternative here. Nobody's putting out a viable strategy that could deal with this problem and produce a victory for the United States and Israel. We just have to face up to the fact that we started a war where we were guaranteed to lose, and we have lost. And now what we have to do is just minimize the damage.
In an effort to end on a light note, even though this is very serious work, and even though the person whose clip I'm now going to run said what he said seriously, here is the ultimate theater of the absurd in all of this, Ambassador Huckabee yesterday.
It's also my job to represent the importance of Israel to the United States. This is just another reminder that it is your heritage without a doubt. But Minister, it is also the heritage of the United States. Without Israel, without the Jewish Foundation, there would not be an America. We owe our very existence to what happened in this land.
Without Israel, there would be no America. Basically saying to the man who appointed him to that job, go take a hike, Mr. President. he should be fired. Well, he should have been fired beforehand, but this is just, as I said, and I'll let you comment, the theater of the absurd.
It is the theater of the absurd. You just wonder what world he's living in. I mean, Israel was created, the last time I checked, in 1948. We declared our independence in 1776 and achieved independence in 1783, according to my calculations. The idea that we wouldn't exist today were it not for Israel, how could anybody possibly make that argument? You say he shouldn't have been fired. My argument would be he should never have been appointed.
Right.
People with, religious views of the sort that he has, who allow those religious views to influence his policy perspective, simply should not be in an important government position.